Awesome. So I'm going to let you guys talk. I'm just going to turn off my camera. But thank you guys so much for joining in. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Lucy, for joining us at Delta G. And congratulations
Yeah.
again. We were mesmerized by your performance, and I cannot wait to jump right into it. So,
Awesome. Well, Lucy, it's great to chat with you.
oh,
Um,
you too, Tim. Yeah, so nice.
yeah, I'm bummed I didn't get to see you in person, crushing it out there. I wasn't surprised. So for everybody tuning in, Lucy just broke the world record at the Ironman World Championship, 8:24:31, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Which is
still blows
just
my mind, to be honest.
just insane. And I mean, we look back. I remember when you did Kona as an age grouper in 2015, and I remember seeing you on the podium for your age group, and I think it was maybe Belinda Granger or someone told me, it's like, watch out for her, she's going to be amazing. And it didn't take long for you. I think 2017, right? You came in your first professional go at Kona and placed second.
Oh, it was mad. I mean, it's been such a crazy journey, and I think actually something that's really cool speaking to you is I think like your wife Rinny was someone that I remember watching racing at the Ironman World Championships and just thinking she is the most badass woman on the planet. I'd love to be like her. So it feels so mad to kind of be able to follow in her footsteps and get that win in Kona was so amazing, so special. But to do it after being second so many times, I think it just
Yep.
feels so much more to me to finally be able to do it. And doing it in that time was like the cherry on top of the cake, really. It just was amazing.
So you've been second in Kona 4 times, and Rainey actually said to me after you won, um, because she's actually been second 4 times as well.
Oh,
But
wow.
exactly, when you win, no one remembers, right? You're the champion. So she said to me, she's like, well, no one's gonna remember those seconds anymore because she's a champion now. So it just the whole just shift. But you know it's crazy? 2015, you went 10:20, and you were almost 2 hours faster on the same course. Just tell us about that progression. I mean, coming from where you were and progression up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most people know my background was in elite level swimming. So when I first started racing Ironman, I always knew I've got the swim, that's fine, that'll be no problem. And actually, when I raced an age grouper in Kona, I think I had one of the fastest swim splits overall, including the pros. And I
Yeah.
think it might have been Belinda Granger at the time who had clocked on, and she was like, "There's this age group woman out there, and I think she might have cut the course. Like, there's no way she can have swum that quick." And then I think as the race went on, she might have looked up who I was and was like, oh,
Right.
you know what? Probably she could have done that, seeing her background in swimming. So I think the engine was always there. So even when I stepped up and was an age grouper in Kona, I knew I had the engine to do it and I'd put in the work, but it wasn't my full-time job. I was working at the time as well and balancing the age group life of having a
Yeah.
full-time job and training. And I think that's where the progression came, was when I started racing quite well in 2017 and got my pro license. I was like, I think I might be able to have a career in triathlon and I need to commit fully to it. So I remember giving up my job at the time, which was a personal trainer, and letting all my clients down and saying, I'm just going to
Yeah.
commit fully to triathlon and see what I can do. And I think that's when the progression really happened. I was able to train like a pro athlete should, to be able to commit the hours to the training and just gradually tick away and build up that training quite gradually, not do anything too drastic and just chip away, get the time off. And then, of course, it's been quite a long journey from being that age group athlete in 2015 to finally getting the win in Kona in 2023. It has been a long journey, but even I, as an age grouper, when I lined up, would never have dreamt of where I would have got to as a professional athlete. So, yeah, it's been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah. So when you were out there in Kona this year, obviously Daniela, I remember when Daniela went 8:26. I think she caught the guys, including me in that front group, rode back from Javi faster than us. And we were just all shocked. She had a bad swim that year. I think she got stung by jellyfish. So everybody seemed like that record was untouchable, but knowing you and number one, your swim ability, right? There's a couple minutes right there that you probably knew, like, hey, did you know that you had the capability to go that fast when you're out there? Or were you just, okay, this is my race plan and I'm just going to follow that and not worry about everything else?
Yeah, I mean, going back to Daniela in 2018, I came second that year, and I think my time also was under the fastest time
Yep.
ever in Kona, but Daniela was like 10 minutes quicker. So I was like, how am I ever going to get faster than this? I've just done one of the best ever performances and I still can't win. So I remember being quite frustrated after Kona that year and going away and thinking, well, how can I get any faster? Like, maybe I can get a little bit faster on the run, but I think I broke the swim course record that year. So
Right.
I was like, swim, I don't think I can get any quicker. The bike, maybe a couple of minutes, but nowhere near what Daniela just rode. So I remember thinking, this is going to be like, I'm going to have to put in a ridiculous amount of work now if I want to win. And then to come back this year, and I actually swam a little bit slower than my fastest swim, but I took a good chunk of time off of my bike and didn't quite ride as fast as Daniela did in 2018, but I had an amazing bike split. And then I had a confidence in my run with the work that I'd done. I knew I could go a bit faster. I hoped to go quicker than I actually did run on the day, but then when I finished and looked around and saw the time, I could not believe it. I hadn't really thought about time all day. I just wanted to win. So when I looked around and saw that time, I was like, I think that might be quicker than Daniela went. And I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, like I said, that was just the cherry on the cake for me, seeing that finish.
Yeah, it's hard to think like 2018, you had the second fastest time ever, right? So that was what, the 40th or 41st Ironman World Championship. So you're thinking, 39 out of 40 or 40 times out of 41, I would be the world champion, but what the heck, right? So, but that was, that's 5 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think that it's been that much time where you've been kind of chipping away, and not just chipping away. I mean, winning world titles, right? 2021, 70.3 world champion, 2022 ITU long distance world champion, and then Kona. So 3 years in a row, world titles, which is pretty amazing. I think you're maybe the second athlete ever to win all three of those in their career. I know Leanna Cave did it, and I was thinking about it. I can't think of anybody else other than Leanna Cave. So that's pretty amazing. So what do you think now? What has it been like since the race? I mean, obviously, winning 70.3 worlds, winning ITU long distance worlds is great, but it ain't Kona, right? Like
Sure.
You did it. You did the real deal. So what has it been like since the race?
Yeah, I mean, Kona has always been the big goal, and it's the pinnacle of our sport. So it's always been the world title that I've wanted. And after winning that race, I didn't know what it would be like because I've never done it. And I think that was the thing. Like, I came home and it was like the Kona circus just continued, and all of the media attention. It's quite hard to get any media attention for triathlon in our country. If you're doing the Olympics, then maybe you will get some, but when you're doing the full distance, it's a little bit more niche in the UK. So actually to get some mainstream media coverage in the UK, that was amazing. And it hasn't slowed down that much here. Like, there's still talks of me maybe getting put up for a nomination for Sports Personality of the Year, which I said after Kona, if I even get nominated, I'd eat my tri-suit because I just can't see it happening. But there's some talk that might happen. So I might be doing an Instagram live of eating my tri-suit. But but yeah, no, it's been so busy, but it's been amazing. And we're now 6 weeks after the race, and I'm getting back into training now with this new level of motivation, but also it just feels like a weight has been lifted. I think for years I was training with, I have to win that race. And the pressure that I had within me to want to win was so big. And now I'm like, I've done it. And some people have said, oh, have you not got this now lack of motivation of what do I do now? Because you've won something you were working towards for so long. And I haven't really felt that. I've just felt this newfound kind of desire to train, but because I want to, not because I have to, just because I love doing this.
You love it, right?
Yeah.
And you said something interesting a little bit earlier, that you didn't run quite as well as you wanted to. So I'd imagine you're already thinking about, all right, that was awesome, but I know I can still do better, right?
Yeah, I think, and that's quite good in a way, that I know there's still something left in the tank. And I think as athletes, that's what keeps you coming back, knowing actually I feel like I can get a little bit more out of myself on this area of the race. So yeah, I would love to see if I could go a bit faster on that marathon. I know it's in there, and I want to be able to show the world that.
And you train with Dan, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Dan, please. And how long you been with him?
So I've been with Dan for about 3 years now, actually. I remember I started talking to him at the beginning of 2021, I think it was. He'd actually heard that I was considering trying to make the Olympic team and do Ironman. And obviously he's coached the likes of Jan Frodeno and Annie Haug, who have both done the same. They've done the Olympics and then gone on to do so well at Ironman. So he's experienced in both. And as it transpires, I decided actually I want to stick with the long course, and I went on to win the 70.3 Worlds that year. And basically ever since I've worked with Dan Narang, every year I've got a world title. So it's been pretty good so far. So yeah, hopefully long may that continue.
Was there any hesitation from Anne? Like, maybe I don't want Lucy working with him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a fantastic athlete, and Dan did actually speak with Annie before he started working with me, and she was fine for him to do that. I mean, we see each other quite a lot. We both train out of Club La Santa in Lanzarote, so there's a real mutual respect there, and I see how hard she works and the dedication and professionalism that she gives to her career. And yeah, I think it's really nice that we can both have the same coach. We can both be competitors, but have that respect as well.
Well, you know, and as true competitors, I'm sure you both want to race each other at the absolute best level, right? And even though you know it's going to be harder for you to beat the other, it's also going to be that much better because you're going to be going faster and you're going to be achieving milestones like you did in Kona that have never been done before. So, it's pretty great that you can all work together like that. That's an amazing relationship.
Yeah, and I think like even in Kona this year, to line up against all of those women, that's what we all wanted. We wanted to get the best out of ourselves. And I think when you're racing at the highest level, that's what you want. You want to be pushed against the best athletes. You don't want to win a race and be like, oh, well, this athlete was missing or this one couldn't make it. You want it to be the best field. So again, that made Kona that little bit extra special for me this year, to be able to win it in such a strong field.
Yeah. And you had a quiet year. You raced, I think, twice early in the year in May, both podiums. And then I believe, injuries kind of came in through most of the season. You were back at Singapore for the PTO Asian Open, and I think 4th or 5th there. So just tell us a little bit about the mental side of that, dealing with your injury through the year and how you were able to overcome that. And if you thought maybe the lighter schedule is part of the reason that you were able to do what you did in October.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years have been lighter racing than I would normally do due to injuries. I had the hip stress fracture last year, and then I had a freak metatarsal break when I raced in Germany this year in May. So I haven't been able to race as much as I've wanted, but I sometimes do think if you want to perform in Kona, actually having a slightly lighter season does work in your favor. I've raced there obviously multiple times now, sometimes having a very heavy season, and I sometimes find by the time you get to July in the season, and if you're doing a race like Challenge Roth and then want to back it up with Kona, it's quite challenging and you feel mentally tired by that. And I think I was mentally fresher having not raced so much. It definitely is a emotional roller coaster when you get injured, because you have all these amazing plans at the start of the season of the races where you want to perform well at, and then you have to cancel them or put them on hold. So that had been challenging, but I feel like I know how to come back from an injury now. I know what I need to do. And even now I got a bit of an injury in Kona on the run. So I'm doing the rehab for that again. I feel like now is a really good time to have an injury though, because there's not much racing happening, and I feel like I'll be ready for next year. But all of that is a challenge, but sport is full of highs and lows, and you've just got to ride them to the best of your ability and hopefully get the best outcome at the end.
Yep. So I broke my foot in 7 or 8 weeks before Kona in 2019, and I took a night when I got the MRI done and realized it was actually broken. I had a bottle of wine and I sulked. I sulked for one night, right? And then I'm like, all right, now we're going to work with the cards that we have on the table. Did you do anything like that? Did you give yourself a little pity party, or give yourself a hot second to just step back and be sad or upset, before you got back to a plan of attack?
Yeah, I think that's the best way of doing it. You need to get all of the emotion, the sadness out. So I definitely would have opened a bottle of wine both times when I had those injuries. Get it all out, have the friends over. They know how to deal with this with me now. We ride the highs and lows together. And I think that's the thing, you can't wallow and be sad about it for too long, because that's not going to help you. You have to go, okay, I'm sad about it, but now let's make the action plan to be back as soon as I can. And yeah, luckily I have a great team around me that are able to help me do that. And yeah, every time we've come back stronger, I think, which if you can do that after an injury, then that is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And going back into that race, you know, obviously you've come through all this, just the training we do with Dan, kind of that aside, what else, you know, nutrition wise or, you know, strategically, what else do you feel you lifted to get that performance this year? Because it's not all just training, right? Like everybody out there is fit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously both of us work with deltaG, and I think that was a big thing that I introduced this year. I actually started working really strongly with the product when I was training up at altitude in Font-Romeu, and I think that was just before PTO Ibiza, the European race. I really started to integrate it into my training. I had used ketones a little bit earlier in my career, experimented with it, but never been consistent with it. I'd used it a bit in racing, a little bit in training, but I really wanted to commit to a block of training and see the effect of using ketones. And I definitely just felt like I had so much more energy. It was consistent. I would use it as a pre in the morning. I would use it, and then I would use it before bed. And then I also, if I had a really, really long session in the day, I would bring in the ketones as like an additional fuel source for the body to use, and just felt a lot better. I felt like I just had this constant energy source. So I've kind of been really consistent with that all year. And I think that probably has given me like an extra percent that I was able to then use again in Kona. So that's been a big thing I've changed. And I think nutrition wise, that's probably the biggest thing I've changed this year. And then obviously if we look at technology, I'd been in the wind tunnel this year. I actually changed my bike position slightly. It wasn't more aerodynamic, but it was more comfortable and had no aerodynamic penalty. So that was one big thing I changed. And actually I've never felt so comfortable on my bike for that 112-mile period. I used to really slide around on my saddle. I think people would notice I always slid forward and had to slide back. I've managed to get rid of that. So I think that made a big difference to my constant power output over the ride. So we're always looking for those marginal gains. I'm sure we're going to find some more, but yeah, they were two big things that I did this year.
What did you do with your position? Did you change the angle of your bars, or how did you, you know, give yourself that, I guess, almost a brace, right? So you're not sliding forward on the saddle.
Yeah, so we actually took my bars further forward. So I was actually just a little bit longer on my bike. I'm actually a really funny athlete in the wind tunnel. I think it's because of my swimmer's shoulders that we can do loads of different things and it makes no difference whatsoever, because you cannot get rid of these shoulders, whatever we do. So whatever angle we do, whether we fill in the gap between the bars, it makes no difference. So a lot of people were giving me stick before Kona that I hadn't filled in the void between my two custom aero bars. And unfortunately for me, that made no difference. I think it was actually worse. So it's so individual to each athlete, hence why you actually have to go in the wind tunnel and test it rather than think it looks more aerodynamic. So we always get some interesting data when we go in the wind tunnel.
Yep, but the peanut gallery is always going to be out there, giving you their 2 cents, whether they know your data or not. But well, we got some questions here. We did some surveyed the audience the last 2 days. But before we get to some of those questions, what's the plan for 2024?
I mean, the plan is still a little bit up in the air. We've obviously got the Ironman series where there's potential to race, I think 18 times we could race in that series, with potential to earn quite a lot of money. Then there's also the PTO series where we've got a couple of dates, but the rest are yet to be confirmed. So for me, I know I want to race the best athletes, which both of those circuits give me the opportunity to do that. So I haven't finalized my season, but you'll see me at most of the PTO races. And then I definitely want to race some of the Ironman series as well. So for me, all I got to do is just keep this body healthy. It's easier, harder to do than I'd like over the last few years. But if I can stay healthy, then I want to race a lot more than I have over the last 2 years. And really just get to race those best women as much as possible.
You there's never been a better time to be professional, that's for sure. And I think you're definitely one of the athletes who can crush either the Ironman tour or the PTO tour. So I'm excited to see where everybody kind of lands through the season. And like you said, hopefully we get the best women and the best men racing each other pretty consistently next year, because as a fan, I want to see it.
Yeah, I think we all do. And as athletes, we do. I think that's why you're just seeing the standard of racing and the athletes' times and abilities are just going up and up, because when you race the best people in the world, you've got no choice but to get better. So it's really exciting for the sport. Yeah. And I feel really, really lucky to be a pro athlete at this time in our sport.
Amen. And you mentioned just a second ago about how hard it is to stay healthy, right? And I know as you get older, it only gets harder. I saw someone make a comment. Do you ice bath at all? Do you cold plunge?
Yeah, I have got an ice bath at home, and I love it. I should do it more. It's one of those things that is an amazing tool, but it's like building up the confidence to get in there every day, especially in the winter in the UK. I feel like in the summer, when it's hot outside, you get in the cold, it's nice. But when it's cold and raining outside and you get in there, it's not such a nice experience. So it is something I try and do every day, but I don't always get in there. But yeah, it's an amazing thing if you can do it.
Yeah, I'm staring at ours right outside and it's cold out. And I had that same struggle this morning. I lost the struggle. I didn't go in this morning, but tomorrow I'll get back on it. So what's your, someone wants to know, what do you eat on race day?
Yeah. So actually leading into the race for almost probably about 5 days out from the race, I pretty much only eat chicken and rice. Like I really try and slow everything down. I still want to get that protein in. That's why I eat the chicken, but a lot of rice. Reese is often force feeding me rice constantly throughout the week to get enough carbs in. And even on race morning, I just eat some more rice. So it's not exciting, but it definitely works for me. And yeah, I'll just keep doing that.
Yeah. Keep it simple. What do you have any idea of your yearly volume? Someone wants to know, or how many hours in total?
I mean, I guess from kind of this part of the season where my training is quite low, I'm probably doing like 15 hours a week at this point of the year, to the massive part of the year where I'm doing the big like 30 plus weeks. So I'd probably say on average across the year, it's probably about 20 hours a week. But yeah, that can vary between where I am in the season and whether it's more strength focused part of the season or this part of the year. It's definitely just about trying to make myself stronger and less injury prone as I go into next year. So that's kind of my big focus at the moment.
Okay. And I just saw a question pop up that I wanted to ask and I had forgotten. What are your thoughts on Nice for the world champion next year? Obviously, you're in a unique situation where you're defending a world title in a completely different course. There's a lot of mixed emotions about all of it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. Like, I loved watching the men race there this year. I think it showed how much it can be a world championship venue, and it also allows a different athlete to have the potential to win because it's so different to Kona, with the bike course particularly being a lot more climbing, a lot more technical. It's going to suit a different rider, and I haven't made my mind up entirely if I will race there or not. I think if I want to race there, I'm going to need to go there and train there for a good few weeks, if not a good few months, to really get used to that course. So that might then take away from other racing that I want to do. So I haven't made the decision there yet. And actually, I think for me, if I hadn't have won Kona this year, I wouldn't have even, of course I would have wanted to win Nice, but for me, I wanted to get that first Kona title in Kona. That was where it was special for me. So I feel really lucky that I've done that, because in my mind, I would have had to wait 2 years to try again. So, yeah.
And you, if I recall, you skipped St. George World Championship in 2022, correct?
Yeah, so I had to skip that one due to my hip stress fracture.
Okay.
So would have loved to have been there. Again, I felt like that was quite special because you had the opportunity to actually win 2 Ironman World Championships in 1 year. And that did excite me, but unfortunately injury stopped me from doing that as well.
But hey, another great performance in Kona that year. So this is a fun question. If you could be any fictional character, who would you be?
Oh, well, I feel like this is probably the obvious answer, but I'd probably say the Little Mermaid, because I have to go with my mermaid persona on that one.
Oh, my daughter Isabel would be very excited with that answer right now. I tell you what. Do you ever, if you just feel like, do you ever skip training when you're just shelled?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I think in my Kona block, I was really consistent. I think I probably only missed like one session in a 5-week block, but I just knew that I was too tired to do it. And I think that's so important that even as a professional athlete, just because it's on your plan on the piece of paper, it doesn't mean you have to do it. It might not be the right thing for you.
Yeah.
And I would say pushing it and maybe just doing that one extra workout when you feel too tired could be the thing that gets you injured. So actually it's so important to, yes, try and do your plan as best as possible, but always listen to your body and know what's right for you.
Yeah, no matter how good your coach is, no one knows your body like better than yourself, right? And at the end of the day, we're the captains of our ship, so we got to take responsibility. So that's great to hear. All right, another good one. How many dogs did you get for winning Kona?
I did not get another dog. Actually, today, though, this is quite funny. My huge Yumeki bowl that I got in Kona was shipped to me. So it arrived this week, and both my dogs have made it their bed, which they did say you put your most precious items in there. My dogs are definitely my most precious items. So they've taken that over there. I think they might be sleeping in there now. It will end up on Instagram soon, as everyone knows. My dogs are on Instagram, so it'll be on there soon, so stay tuned for that one.
I'm sure everybody's going to be looking forward to it. How do you see triathlon evolving in the next 10 years?
I mean, we're obviously seeing a massive evolution in triathlon at the moment with the PTO series. They're kind of making everyone up their game. So Ironman have brought out their series. You've still got these amazing challenge races, Challenge Roth, all of these opportunities to race. So at the moment, there's almost too many opportunities to race, if that's even possible. Like you could probably race more than once on a weekend. So, but I think the sport's going in an amazing direction. And I just hope that we start to really get that kind of mainstream TV coverage, which is what the PTO is pushing for. We're already on Eurosport, but I think if we could break into like the BBC in the UK, then it would just be insane for the sport. Who knows? But I feel it's going in a really amazing direction.
Yeah, and I think once we start to see the same athletes, like you said, the best athletes in the world racing each other consistently, and we can start to see those storylines develop between the athletes, I think that makes for very compelling television. And to me, I'm really excited because I think that will be the next kind of launching point for our sport.
Yeah, and I think there's always been so many amazing athletes with amazing stories that no one's really known about. So actually, for those stories to be told of maybe what this athlete's overcome to be here, or kind of the progression that this athlete's had from being a real underdog or under the radar to winning races, like to be able to really share that story is just amazing for our sport and for the athletes involved in it as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to hold you up too much more. I'm trying to see if we get any more good questions. All right. Here's a good one. What is a failure that you learned the most from in your triathlon career? Because I think, we probably all feel the same, that the races you lose are where you learn the most, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never felt like any of my second place finishes have been a failure. I've always given everything I could. And even when things haven't gone quite right in races, when I've got penalties that I felt were unjust or unfair, I've always just got on with it and accepted it and tried to handle that in the best way. And I actually think some of the biggest failures or mistakes that I made were quite early on into my career. When I was a very new pro, I actually got a stress fracture in my tibia and just ignored it and just kept racing, kept training. And when I went and got the scan on my leg, they said, if you do one more race, your leg is going to snap. Like you've got a fracture so far through it. And actually at the time, I needed to hear that. I needed to really go, you know what, this isn't swimming where you can just keep pounding it and doing more and more. This sport requires a bit more, I guess, smartness with your training. You can't just do more and more, you have to be smarter. So I learned that the hard way really early on in my career. And I think now whenever I get injured, I really do just stop and go, okay, right, how do we overcome this? How do we get better? How do we make sure this is not a long lasting problem, that it's not going to come back? So that really early on was probably my biggest mistake that I made. And it's probably, although I haven't avoided injuries entirely, I now am much smarter when I get them. So I think it was a good lesson to learn early on.
Yeah, and it's hard to hold yourself back a lot of the times, right? I think if you have that personality where you're going for world titles, you know, it's very easy to just push it a little too much.
Yeah, and I also think it could be harder in the beginning as well, when you are a newer pro and you really want to prove yourself. You want to show the world you deserve to be there. And I think that was where I was. And I was like, I can't not race because I need to show the world what I'm about. Whereas now I feel a little bit less pressure because I'm like, actually, I've got some results. People know how I race. And yes, I don't want to miss out on racing, but at least I've got some good results behind me now. And yeah, but it's never easy when you get injured.
Yeah, you're right. When you're young, you don't have the confidence to say, okay, you know what, I'm fine if I back off right now. You know, it's going to be okay. You know, you're usually like, you know, the sky's falling. You know, this is the worst moment of my life. But you've obviously overcome it. One more question. Did you treat yourself after Kona? Did you like splurge on like some crazy buy, you know, fancy car? I don't know, a nice watch?
I haven't yet. You know what? I had all of these crazy ideas of things I would buy if I won Kona. One of them was the G-Wagon car. I was like, I'm going to get a G-Wagon. I'm going to fill it with dogs and drive around. And I guess because I never actually thought I would win, I was like, let's just think of all these ridiculous things that I would buy. Now that I've won, I just feel so internally happy and satisfied. I haven't gone and splurged money on anything. I haven't bought another dog. I am going to have quite a big party at the weekend to celebrate, which will be really nice. But yeah, other than that, I feel like, just quite content, which is a nice place to be.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for your time today. And, you know, also we didn't mention, you know, Reese and your sister, you got an amazing support team. So big shout out to them for helping you achieve everything you've done. I also want to thank deltaG for hosting us. You know, obviously been a partner for mine for a while. And when I heard that you were coming on board, I'm like, oh yeah, right. Let's go. Lucy's, this is going to be awesome. So it's great to see already, you know, hitting the highest achievement in the sport. So have a great holiday season, Lucy. Thank you so much for coming on. Good luck in 2024. We're all going to be watching.
Thanks so much, Tim. So great to chat to you.
Cheers.